What is up, my fellow horror fans? Late Night with the Devil is a brand new found footage horror film written, directed, and edited by Cameron and Colin Cairns. The synopsis reads, a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. And after a ton of anticipation, because people have been talking nonstop about this film, I'm happy to announce that I have finally seen it, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be giving my full non-spoiler review, so you can relax. No spoilers. I will dive into a couple towards the end of the video, but I'll be sure to give a big warning before I do. But before we dive in, make sure you smash like and subscribe if you're new here, because if you don't, I'll have to exercise my right to, God, I don't know, exercise was the best pun I had, like exorcism, I don't know. But folks, we have a great show for you tonight. You know what I'm talking about, Harry? Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Joe's Vibes. Sorry, I'm really into this film right now because it was so freaking good. Late Night with the Devil. This is a film that made a massive splash at South by Southwest. A lot of people have been talking about it. There's been some really solid critical acclaim. There's also been some other stuff surrounding this movie that you guys might have heard of involving the use of AI. And I want to get my thoughts on that, and then I'll dive into the review. If you're not familiar with the situation, basically, some people that went and saw this at South by went and saw it after it was released and noticed that AI-generated art made its way into several scenes that wasn't there when they first saw it. And so their response was to boycott the film. And this is not uncommon. People boycott everything, it seems like nowadays, but it is a very important issue. It's a very hot button issue right now, especially considering that we had the strikes last year, and actors, this is one of the things that they fought a lot for. The right to not be digitally replaced in movies and just be an extra 1,000 times having only been paid once. Like, there are a lot of different variables to the whole AI situation. It's such a new thing within the industry that I think a lot of people are very critical of it, as well they should be. But this situation is a little bit different. The directors actually spoke out. Cameron and Colin Cairns said, in conjunction with our amazing graphics and production design team, all of whom worked tirelessly to give this film the 70s aesthetic we had always imagined, we experimented with AI for 3 still images, which we edited further and ultimately appear as very brief interstitials in the film. And then star David Dastmalchian, who I'm going to talk a lot about, by the way, he actually came out and supported this. He said, so I think Cameron and Colin said it really well, and I stand by what they said, and I completely stand by this movie as a thoroughly original piece of work that so many man-hours went into this incredible artistic craftsmanship to be set in this world. So it's a good conversation to have. It's an important conversation. We've got to have it. And he's absolutely right, and it's important to have a constructive conversation about this issue, but what we saw online was a lot of rash takes of people who haven't even seen the film and don't really know anything about the AI that was actually in the film, just immediately being like, I'm boycotting, I'm not watching it because of XYZ. Personally, I do have thoughts on it, but they don't really matter because I'm not a working actor in the industry. I'm a viewer. I'm somebody who's coming and watching this film, and having watched this film now, I didn't notice a thing, and I have no idea where these images even were. And so it doesn't really make much of a difference for me. I think what the directors are saying a bit is that they used AI as a tool, and there was so much creativity and artistic vision already put into this thing to give that 1970s feel, and they took inspiration from AI where they needed to, and they used it in a few different moments. And so I don't know if that triggers some people out there. You can't really help that. That's just their opinion. As for me, I just went along for the ride. I really enjoyed the movie. So with that being said, let's dive into this review. I want to talk about Late Night with the Devil because this is a movie that surprised me so much. If you watch the trailer and kind of read the synopsis, read what this movie is about, it might surprise you. Personally, I kind of went into this thing blind. The only thing I knew was that this was going to be a found footage horror film, and I didn't know how that would look. I didn't know how that would feel. I think every time you hear found footage, you just picture, you know, Blair Witch Project. I'm so scared. But this was nothing like that. The best way to describe this movie is truly, it's just like you're sitting in a theater and watching an episode of a late night television, but the most messed up episode of a late night talk show that you've ever freaking seen. You get so involved with what's happening that you absolutely lose yourself. The performances are so well done that you're not even looking at actors anymore. You're looking at these characters in the 1970s. And then just the feel of the 1970s alone, they're referencing people like Johnny Carson. They're putting you right in this era as if this was a real thing that took place. And so you're sitting there just being like, man, the 70s look freaking cool. Like, I was sitting there being like, man, I wish I could live in the 70s because it just looks so awesome. And to be a part of it, at least just for an hour and a half, laugh like that much of a part of it. It felt like I was sitting in my living room watching this on like a box TV. It was so cool. But the one guy that we need to talk about, and I want to talk in depth about him, is David Dastmalchian. I think all of us are a little bit familiar with this actor. We've seen him in a lot of different stuff. Seen him in Dark Knight, seen him in Prisoners, seen him in Dune. Like, he has a vast filmography. He always kind of plays that strange dude. But this is the first movie that I've seen him as a leading man. And guys, he absolutely crushed it. He deserves all the flowers in the world for this performance. I've talked a lot on my channel about iconic horror performances and how they don't get the praise that they freaking deserve. And this guy, I already know, he's not going to get the praise that he deserves. And some of these performances, like, I feel like they deserve Oscars. Maybe I'm going too far there, but the history of horror has a lot of those performances in it that just go unnoticed. And again, I think that this is one of them. He holds it down so well. To me, I was thinking while watching this film about the monologues that he has to do. Like I was saying, this movie sucks you in to the point where you feel like you're watching a late night talk show, and he's standing there center stage talking for minute after minute after minute, just giving lines of dialogue, and you're not even thinking about it. You're just going with it. But when you think about the acting performance in that moment, how much he had to memorize for that moment, he just really held it down. He plays a character by the name of Jack Delroy, a successful variety late night talk show host. And this episode of this late night talk show takes place on Halloween during a ratings week. And so it's hardcore competition, and this guy wants to put together the scariest show he can to drive up his ratings. That's basically all I'll say, but from there are twists and turns. There are things that are going to absolutely shock you. There are also things that are going to make you laugh really hard. It's a very psychological movie. There's stuff going on behind the scenes, which you see this behind the scenes footage, and then you're in front of the camera. And every performance in the background, everybody just fades into their performance. You don't even think that anybody's an actor in this thing. Obviously, you don't have a ton of recognizable faces, so there's nothing that's jarring you or taking you out of it. But with that being said, I do think that everybody did a really rock solid job. The one guy that I do want to call out really quick is this actor named Ian Bliss, and he showed up, and it was the first time I've seen him since Matrix Revolutions, and I was like, bro, that's Agent Smith. But I can't emphasize enough how much I just want people to get out and watch this movie, because it's a really, really fun ride. It's a very different kind of feeling horror film. Obviously, if you're a horror fan like me, you know the genre, and you know that it calls for changing things up. There's so much more room to be creative within horror. That's why I love it so much. And this is one of those gems that comes along every once in a while that you're just like, man, that was such a good idea. It's unbelievable. And when it gets scary because you're the viewer. You're watching this talk show, and all of a sudden somebody's levitating. All of a sudden lights are popping and things are getting super dark. And just with it being this documentary style, you're thinking about the people that are sitting on their couches watching this thing and just losing their freaking minds. But I know that this wasn't like a wide theatrical release, so there aren't that many screenings out there for it. It's being released on Shudder on April 19th, and so if you get a chance, I highly recommend signing up for Shudder and watching this film, because it's worth it, or at least when it comes out to rent, you can watch it then. But that's pretty much it for my non-spoiler talk. I will give my Jones Vibe star rating. I want to let you guys know that this is based purely just off of my enjoyment level. Guys, I'm giving Late Night with the Devil 5 out of 5 stars. I liked it that much. It's definitely one of my new favorites. It could be my favorite horror film of 2024. Definitely so far, so we'll see about that. But moving on, I do just want to have a quick discussion about some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, definitely your time to check out. If you have seen the movie, join me in this conversation. So, I didn't expect a lot going into this film. I expected this found footage horror film, but I definitely didn't expect some of the themes and messages that this was trying to convey. Obviously, you have this episode of a late night talk show, but in the end, you have Jack Delroy, you have his wife Minnie, and everything that he went through, and you have this kind of Bohemian Grove situation where he's like dancing in the woods with all these owls and stuff like that, and it kind of reveals in the end, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but to me, I felt like the message was this dude sold his soul for the #1 spot, but didn't realize that in doing that, he sacrificed his wife. And that message that hit me really hard. It's one of those messages that I think can be a lot broader than just selling your soul. You know, what would you do to be number one? And what is the cost when you're doing all that to your loved ones? You guys know what I mean? It was really profound. And when the documentary style thing kind of stops in the end, and all of a sudden you're just with Jack Delroy, and he's going through all of these different moments from his past, and it's just one after the other, and things just continue to get psychotic, and you're just going down this rabbit hole with him until all of a sudden he's holding this blade and he killed the young girl. Like, that was incredible and so mind-blowing. I absolutely loved it. The way that it ends with him just being like, stop watching now. It was really powerful. Again, I didn't expect the messages and some of the themes to be as powerful as they were. So please let me know your thoughts on that. That's one of the really quick spoilers that I wanted to talk about. And as always, guys, make sure to leave all of your thoughts down in the comments. I read every single one that comes in, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you stuck with me this far, make sure you hit subscribe. My goal right now is 15,000 subscribers, and I can't do that without you guys. So if you enjoy my channel, if you enjoy my content, please click subscribe. But smash like. You can also follow me on X at Jones Vibes Only, and more than anything, don't forget to keep up the good vibes, guys. But that's all we got for tonight, folks. Johnny, take us out.
Jones Vibes.